Have you ever had that feeling? You're just drowning in information, scrolling endlessly, but you still feel like you don't really know what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. It's overwhelming.
Right. Well, today, we're going to try and cut through some of that noise. We're diving deep into one company, Nvidia.
Ah, Nvidia.
Yeah.
Hard to avoid them right now.
Exactly. How did a company that, mostly made graphics cards for gamers suddenly become this $3.3 trillion global giant? It seems like it happened overnight.
It really does feel that way sometimes.
And this isn't just a business story, is it? It feels more like a blueprint, maybe, for how to catch one of these massive megatrends. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's do it. Our mission here is to really dig into the sources we've looked at, pull out the key insights about NVIDIA's journey, how they got so dominant, and importantly, where they might be going next.
Right.
Because like one analysis we saw put it, for NVIDIA, this isn't the end. It's not even the beginning of the end. It feels more like, well, the end of the beginning.
The end of the beginning. I like that. It sets the stage perfectly. So, where does it begin? Let's rewind.
Okay.
NVIDIA, founded 1993. Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, Curtis Prime. And their goal, initially, sounds almost quaint now, right? Just accelerate graphics for PC games.
Yeah, just make games look better.
It was all about the pixels, getting those visuals really sharp, really smooth. Seems like such a specific, maybe even niche market back then.
It does on the surface, but, the real magic, the thing that was happening sort of underneath the games and the pretty pictures, was actually revolutionary. It was parallel processing.
Parallel processing. Explain that a bit.
Sure. So think about a standard computer chip, a CPU. It's great at doing tasks one after another, really fast, sequentially.
Okay.
But a GPU, the graphics processing unit NVIDIA was building, it was designed completely differently. It was made to do thousands, literally thousands of small, simple tasks all at the same time, in parallel.
Ah, okay. Like an army of tiny workers instead of one big one.
Exactly. And while that was perfect for rendering complex graphics in games, that architectural choice, that early bet, it wasn't just about gaming. It actually laid the groundwork for things they probably couldn't even imagine back in '93.
Like what?
Well, like AI training, complex scientific simulations, even, cryptocurrency mining much later on. But yeah, for almost 20 years, they were basically the kings of gaming graphics. That was their world.
So they had this incredibly powerful parallel processing engine, disguised almost as a gaming toy. Then comes the tipping point.
Right.
You mentioned 2012 earlier. ImageNet competition.
Yeah.
Big deal in the AI world. A team from the University of Toronto wins it using deep learning.
Trained on Nvidia GPUs.
Trained on Nvidia GPUs. That wasn't just a small academic win, was it? The sources frame this as the spark. The moment AI really started taking off, powered by their hardware.
It absolutely was. And you have to ask, why NVIDIA? Why were they perfectly positioned right then?
Yeah, why them?
Because deep learning, these neural networks, the transformer models that underpin things like ChatGPT now, they absolutely devour parallel processing power.
The kind of work GPUs were built for.
Exactly. CPUs just couldn't handle it efficiently. They'd choke. GPUs thrived. But crucially, it wasn't just the hardware. NVIDIA had spent the previous decade building something else. CUDA.
CUDA. I've heard that name. What is it?
It's their proprietary software layer. Basically, it lets developers write code specifically for the GPUs, unlocking all that parallel power for general-purpose computing, not just graphics.
Ah, so they built the hardware and the key to unlock it for non-gaming stuff.
Precisely. So when AI researchers suddenly realized they needed massively parallel processors they could actually program, who was ready? NVIDIA.
And the others.
AMD wasn't there yet. Intel wasn't. Even Google, with all its resources, was kind of caught flat-footed on the hardware side initially. This wasn't just luck. It points to Jensen Huang's vision playing the long game. Think about it. OpenAI, Meta, Tesla. Pretty much every major AI lab owes its early big successes to NVIDIA silicon. That impact is just immense.
Staggering. So that 2012 moment really shifted their trajectory. How did that change the actual business? Because today, looking at their numbers, gaming isn't the main story anymore.
Not even close. Today, their data center business absolutely dwarfs gaming. Let me give you a number. First quarter, fiscal 2025, data center revenue was $22.6 billion.
$22.6 billion.
One quarter.
Yep. And that was nearly 80% of their total revenue. It's a complete inversion from their origins.
So what are they selling into these data centers? Who's buying?
They've essentially become the provider of The infrastructure of intelligence, as some call it. The buyers are the hyperscalers, Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud.
The big cloud guys.
Right. They're buying Nvidia's chips like the H100 and now the new Blackwell B200s as fast as Nvidia can make them.
What do they use them for? Everything. Training those huge large language models, running the recommendation engines you see everywhere online, powering real-time AI inference tasks. It's the backbone of the modern AI cloud.
But you said it wasn't just chips earlier.
Correct. And this is key to understanding their dominance. They're not just selling silicon, they're selling full systems. Things like their DGX supercomputers, specialized AI enterprise software, and crucially, the high-speed networking gear they got when they acquired Mellanox.
So they're building the whole package.
Exactly. They're creating a vertical stack. Someone compared it to Apple controlling the hardware, the core software, the ecosystem. Nvidia is doing that for AI.
Apple, but for AI model.
Kind of, yeah. And it makes their offering incredibly sticky. Once you design your AI infrastructure around Nvidia's stack, it's really hard and expensive to switch out.
And financially, what does that vertical integration mean?
It means layers of value. Every chip sale can pull through software sales. Every software package has a licensing model. Every license adds to the margin.
Which leads to?
Gross margins over 75%.
75%?
Yeah.
That's huge for hardware-related business. That's definitely Apple territory.
It absolutely is. It's like selling luxury goods, but they're essential infrastructure.
Okay, that kind of margin must attract attention, though. Both competitors and maybe regulators down the line.
Oh, definitely. And we should talk about competition. But first, we need to mention their latest big move, the Blackwell architecture.
Right. Announced this year, 2024. Successor to the Hopper chips like the H100. What's the deal with Blackwell?
They're positioning the B200 and the GB200 Grace Blackwell superchips as more than just an upgrade. They're calling them generational leaps.
Okay, leap in what sense? What can they do?
Well, technically, they're designed to train absolutely massive AI models, think trillion parameter models, much faster and using less energy than before.
Trillion parameters. The scale's hard to grasp.
It really is. They're optimized specifically for those transformer architectures we mentioned, the engines behind modern LLMs. They also use techniques like mixed precision arithmetic to speed things up without losing too much accuracy.
And these aren't going in anyone's desktop PC.
No, definitely not. This is the heavy iron for building the next generation of AI, potentially towards artificial general intelligence or AGI. We're talking massive scale deployment. You hear about Meta ordering, 350,000 H100s?
Yeah, incredible numbers.
And other tech giants are placing similar huge bets. It's like a literal AI arms race. And Nvidia is supplying the weaponry to basically everyone.
Selling the arms, yeah.
But it's more than just the chips. They're also setting the standards for how these systems connect and communicate with things like their NVLink and NVSwitch technology. And it all ties back into that CUDA software ecosystem.
So it reinforces that lock-in.
Totally. Once you invest heavily in NVIDIA hardware and build your software on CUDA, you're pretty much committed. It's not just market share. It's deep market control. That's why that iOS of AI comparison keeps coming up.
The iOS of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really sticks. We've talked a lot about hardware, data centers, chips, but you hinted there's more. What about the software side? Is that becoming a bigger piece of the puzzle?
It's absolutely crucial. I think too many people still look at NVIDIA and just see a semiconductor company. That's missing a huge part of the strategy.
So beyond CUDA, what are they building?
Well, CUD is still the bedrock, right? The foundation for developers. But now they're adding layers on top. Take something called NIM, NVIDIA Inference Microservices.
NIM. Okay, what does that do?
It's designed to make it much easier for companies to actually deploy pre-trained AI models into their applications. Think of it as a bridge between the raw compute power and getting an AI model to do useful work in the real world. It delivers things like LLMs in ready-to-use containers.
Making AI easier to adopt for businesses.
Exactly, lowering the barrier to entry. And then there's Omniverse.
Omniverse. That sounds ambitious.
It is. It's NVIDIA's platform for building and simulating digital twins, for industrial simulation, 3D design collaboration. It's not just a concept. Companies are using it now. BMW is simulating entire factories in Omniverse before they build them. Architects are modeling buildings.
Digital twins.
Yeah.
Like creating a virtual replica of a real-world thing or system.
Precisely. And you can test, simulate, optimize in the virtual world before you commit resources in the physical world. It connects to this whole idea of spatial computing, or the metaverse, if you like. NVIDIA is already building the tools for that future.
That's quite a vision. Building virtual worlds on top of the hardware that powers AI. But okay, back to the present. Even with this huge lead, this ecosystem, competition must be stirring. Who's trying to chip away at that 80+% market share?
Oh, absolutely. The wolves are definitely circling, or at least trying to. You've got AMD pushing hard with their MI300X chips, often trying to compete on price.
Okay, AMD.
Who else?
Intel is in the game with its Gaudi accelerators, and then the big cloud providers themselves. Google has its TPUs, Amazon has Trainium and Inferentia chips, Microsoft is developing its own AI silicon too. They're NVIDIA's biggest customers, but they also want their own alternative.
Trying to reduce their dependence. Makes sense. And then there's the whole geopolitical angle, especially with China. U.S. export controls mean Nvidia can't sell its top-end chips there, so they had to design specific, less powerful versions like the H20 just for that market.
So lots of moving parts on the competitive front. Does it seriously threaten their dominance, do you think?
Well, competition always matters, but the argument is that NVIDIA's ecosystem, the hardware, CUDA, the networking, the software libraries, creates such a strong moat that it's very difficult to displace them quickly. As we said, ecosystems often matter more than individual chip specs.
Right, that sticky iOS of AI again. Which brings us, inevitably, to the valuation.
The elephant in the room.
$3.3 trillion market cap, trading at what, over 40 times forward earnings? You hear the word bubble a lot.
Yeah.
How do we put that number into perspective? Is it justified?
It's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? Look, it's a huge number, no doubt, but context is key. Microsoft and Apple are also in that $3 trillion club. And remember, Tesla back in 2021, it traded at over 100 times earnings at its peak, arguably without the kind of profit margins or the deep competitive moat NVIDIA seems to have built.
So what's the bull case for NVIDIA's current valuation being, well, maybe not cheap, but understandable?
Okay, several points. One, growth. They're still showing triple-digit year-over-year revenue growth, which is just staggering at their scale.
Okay.
Two, margins. Those 75% plus gross margins we talked about are phenomenal and generate enormous profits. Three, operating leverage. As their revenue scales up, their profits are scaling up even faster.
Interesting.
Right. Four, the moat. That combination of hardware, software, networking, and customer lock-in is incredibly powerful. And five, the megatrend. They are absolutely central to the biggest technological shift happening right now, probably since the internet itself.
The AI revolution.
Exactly. The old analogy holds. During a gold rush, sell picks and shovels. NVIDIA is selling the critical tools for the AI gold rush, and that rush seems like it's still in the early stages.
Picks and shovels.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And it feels like their story isn't just about those giant AI data centers, even though that's driving the headlines on the revenue right now. Are there other significant growth areas we should be aware of?
Oh, definitely. They have several other important growth vectors cooking. Automotive is a big one.
Cars. How?
Their NVIDIA Drive platform is being used by companies like Tesla, Mercedes, XPeng, not just for the AI needed for autonomous driving features in the car, but also for simulating driving scenarios in virtual environments to train those AI models safely.
Okay, automotive. What else?
Edge computing and the Internet of Things, or IoT. Their Jetson and Orin platforms are basically small, powerful computers that bring GPU acceleration out of the data center and into devices at the edge.
Like where?
Think cashierless stores, smart security cameras, advanced robotics in warehouses or factories. AI inference happening locally, not just in the cloud.
Got it. Edge AI.
Then there's healthcare and life sciences. NVIDIA's Clara platform is using AI to accelerate things like medical imaging analysis, genomics research, and even drug discovery, helping scientists model complex biological processes like protein folding or identify potential cancer markers.
Wow. Really diverse applications.
And finally, back to those digital twins and industrial simulation with Omniverse. Partnering with companies like Siemens, they're enabling the modeling and optimization of incredibly complex systems, factories, supply chains, even entire cities. It's like CAD software on steroids, building digital replicas of the physical world.
It's an incredibly broad scope. And driving all of this, overseeing these massive bets, is Jensen Huang.
The man in the leather jacket.
Right. He comes across as this unique figure, part CEO, part tech visionary, part showman. He definitely feels like the most talked about leader in Silicon Valley right now, maybe since Steve Jobs.
There are parallels drawn, yeah. And what seems to define his leadership is this combination of really deep technical understanding, incredible conviction in his bets, and a truly long-term perspective.
He plays the long game.
Absolutely. He's focused on building platforms, not just point products. He's known for investing heavily, especially in R&D, even during industry downturns when others cut back. He makes these huge, sometimes contrarian bets that often end up setting the direction for the entire industry years later.
Can you give an example?
Well, think back to maybe 2018. The cryptocurrency boom had faded. Crypto mining demand for GPUs collapsed. Gaming growth seemed to stall for a bit. A lot of investors were doubting Nvidia then.
I remember that.
But Huang just kept investing, kept building out the AI capabilities, kept pushing CDA. He stuck to the long-term vision. And well, look where that conviction led them. Now they're the most valuable semiconductor company on the planet.
That conviction is clearly powerful. Okay, but we have to be balanced. No company is without risks. This sounds like an incredible success story, but what are the potential clouds on the horizon? What could derail this?
That's fair. A deep dive has to look at the risks, too. And there are definitely significant ones. Geopolitical shocks are probably top of the list.
Especially concerning Taiwan.
Exactly. Taiwan plays such a critical role in manufacturing the most advanced chips, including Nvidia's through TSMC. Any disruption there would have major global consequences, hitting Nvidia hard.
A huge dependency. What else?
There's the risk of overcapacity. Could the hyperscalers, in their rush to build AI infrastructure, actually build too much capacity in the short term? That could lead to a pause or slowdown in orders.
A boom and bust cycle.
Potentially, yeah. Or at least a temporary digestion period. Then there's customer concentration. So much of their data center revenue comes from just a handful of those giant cloud companies. If one or two of them were to significantly cut spending, that would hurt.
Relying on a few big buyers.
And finally, there's a longer-term potential threat from open-source hardware standards like RISC-V and the continued push by major customers to develop more of their own custom silicon, trying to bypass Nvidia eventually.
So geopolitical, cyclical demand, customer concentration, and future competition from open source or custom chips.
Yep.
How is Nvidia addressing these?
Well, the sources suggest they're actively working on managing these. They're trying to broaden their customer base beyond just the very top hyperscalers. They're exploring geographic diversification for manufacturing and supply chain resilience, although that's incredibly complex and slow for cutting-edge chips. And they're constantly investing heavily in R&D to stay generations ahead with their architectures, trying to make sure their platform remains the best choice. They're definitely aware of the headwinds.
Okay, so risks acknowledged and to some extent managed. Stepping back then, it really does feel like we're just at the beginning of this AI era. You hear phrases like LLMs are just toddlers, and true artificial general intelligence is still way off, maybe just speculative.
That seems to be the consensus, yes. Early days.
But what strikes me is how Nvidia seems positioned to ride all the waves associated with this transition. Not just the core compute, but the software, the cloud deployment, the edge computing, the simulation, and digital twins, even robotics. They have a finger in every pie.
That's a great way to put it. And maybe a final analogy to consider, drawing from one of the sources. Think about past technological revolutions.
Huh?
In the Industrial Revolution, steel was the fundamental enabling material. It made everything else possible.
Right, the bedrock.
In the internet age, you could argue servers in data centers played that role. They were the infrastructure the digital world was built on.
Makes sense.
Now, in the AI era, the argument is the future runs on Nvidia. Their chips are the new steel. Their software is the scaffolding. Their overall vision is the blueprint.
Chips of the steel, software the scaffolding, vision the blueprint.
Yeah, and if that's true, then this isn't the peak for them. It's the platform they've built. And the ride, as they say, might have only just begun.
A powerful thought to end on. It leaves you wondering, if this really is just the platform, what kind of world gets built on top of it? What does that AI-driven future running on Nvidia actually look like in our daily lives? Something to think about.